I'm Joe Reingold, and I'm interviewing Tany Banarer today. Today is Thursday, March 5th, 2020. And hello, Tany, how are you?
Hi, Joe.
Good.
How are you?
This is for our Latin American Jewish program that we're going to be having soon. Take it away, Tany. Where are you from? Tell us where your family was from, your grandparents, your parents, and then leading up to your childhood.
Okay. I was born in Lima, Peru, and my parents were both from Poland. My mother arrived in Peru in 1937, and my father arrived in 1938, thanks to the generosity of my father's brother, who sent them the tickets and who did all the paperwork to get them into the country.
Very good. Why did they pick Peru, do you think?
Well, my uncle, Luis Calixtein, during First World War, he was the driver of a Polish general. And since he had blue eyes and he was blonde, everybody thought he was a Pole, he was not Jewish. That's why he was a driver in the army. So one day they were driving through the Jewish ghetto, and my uncle stopped the car. And the general said, "Why are you stopping the car?" So he said, "There is a person crossing the door." "Why you call a person a filthy Jew, and me, a Polish general, have to wait for him to cross the street? Just go on." So my uncle went on in a very careful way, and that day he knew he had to flee from Poland. So he went first to Brazil and then to Peru.
And were your parents both brought up there?
Excuse me?
Your parents, were they from there also?
No. My parents were from Poland.
I'm sorry. Your grandparents, did they go that far back also to Poland?
No, my grandparents were living in Poland at that time.
Okay. And your parents were both from Poland. Do you know what city, what area?
They were living in Warsaw, and I know my maternal grandmother came from Vienna, Austria.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Those were tough times then. So what year, do you remember, do you know what year they came to Peru?
My mother in 1937 and my father in 1938.
Okay. So you were born there.
I was born in Lima.
So tell us a little bit about your childhood, what it was like there.
Well, when I was born, my father was very happy to be able to name me after his mother, Tauba. And then what I remember is that across the street we lived, there was a Christian church with a school. And it was very convenient for my mother to send me to that school. But they would not receive me because I was Jewish and they were nuns. Okay? So then there was an English school in Lima called the Lima High School, where all the Jewish girls used to go. And girls came out there from learning excellent English. So when the time came for me to go to that school, my mother took me, and they wouldn't accept me. Because at that time there was President Truman, and he had forbidden the school to receive any more Jews. So we asked, why are my other friends allowed? So she said, because they are younger sisters from students that are already there, but we are not accepting any new ones. So they referred us to another school that was led by ex-students from the Lima High School.
Okay. What were some of your activities in school? What did you enjoy doing?
I always loved handcrafts. Languages were very, very easy for me because my parents used to speak Yiddish at home, they spoke Spanish outside the house, and my parents would switch to Polish when they did not want me to understand. So for me, learning a foreign language was no big deal.
That's good. Did you learn it in school or outside of school, another language?
No,
Or just picked it up?
No, I picked up Spanish from the maids and in the street, and English at school.
Okay, right.
And I remember my first English teacher was English. She was from England, Miss Mabel.
So you learned an accent in English. That's good. So tell me, did you have any Jewish activities growing up?
Well, I remember when I was... The first Jewish activity I remember, there used to be the WITSO organization, and they had an activity for Purim, a big kermesse, and we had in Lima at that time, we had a Sephardic society which was very active, so that kermesse was at the Sephardic society, and I remember it being nice as a small girl. Then, when I was 10 years old, there were two main youth movements. There was the Betar and the Anoar Azioni. So, since my brother used to go to the Betar, I used to go to the Betar and enjoyed a lot being among Jewish children, boys and girls.
Did they instill in you a love of Israel?
Yes.
Israel programming?
Yes.
And has that carried through most of your life?
At that age, I would have loved to make Aliyah if my mother wouldn't have a fit about it.
Did your parents have the same strong sense of Israel?
Well, all I know is that I still own a quarter of dunam bought by my father during the V campaign in 1948.
Wow.
I still have it. And then, well, my father was not religious, but he used to drive to shul every Saturday. We lived far, and he used to go with his brother. We used to celebrate Passover, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur.
Did your parents have other family in Peru, other siblings?
Okay, so my uncle was the first to arrive. Then he bought a ticket for his bride. Then when his bride was expecting, she decided to bring a sister. And then he decided to bring a brother. So my parents were married, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and that was the whole family.
Okay.
And growing up, we were always 7, because I have an older brother, and my uncles had an only son. So it was always the 7 of us.
Very good. And you were close with them?
Very close,
Yes.
very, very close.
Mm-hmm. What did your parents do for a living, and what kind of things were they involved in?
Okay. My mother used to always stay at home. She was not at all social. My father, on the other hand, was very charming, very outgoing. He told me that in Poland he made all sorts of odd jobs. He was not a learned person, but he had lots of common sense. He taught himself how to speak Spanish by reading the newspaper. He could type invoices in Spanish using a typewriter and his Spanish dictionary. And he would be able to sell you absolutely anything. And that was his business.
So did he have a store?
No.
An actual shop? No?
No. He did not have a shop, but he used to deal with jewelry. Then he would get things in auctions. He would sell anything that came into his hand.
And your mom stayed home,
Yeah.
raising you.
And my brother.
Do you know if they joined anything, whether civic or religious or Jewish at all?
Well, there was the Unión Israelita, the synagogue there. So they were members of that synagogue. My father would go every single year to the Jewish cemetery starting at the beginning of May, because it was the commemoration of the Holocaust. And so far, and I started going to the Jewish school. There was only one Jewish school in 1959, when I was 13.
And that's where you stayed? Graduated from there?
Yes, I graduated from there.
So tell us a little bit about what you did after graduation.
Well, I was very, very lucky because I have only one brother who is 5 years older than me. And he decided he wanted to study architecture in Brazil. So my father sent him to Brazil. When it came to me, since I had always been a good student, my father told me, learn anything you want, wherever you want. So I decided to go study nice manners in Switzerland.
Oh, okay.
So I went there for 2 years.
And then what?
So the first year I only learned French. In the second year I made a commercial diploma. Then I came back in Peru, end of December. And I remember I went with a very close friend to the graduation ceremony of the Jewish school, and she introduced me there to my actual husband, okay? So I met him in December. April was my birthday, so he asked for my hand, and we were married in July next year.
What year was that?
Excuse me?
What year?
We were married in 1966.
Okay. All right. So where did you settle down?
We settled down in Lima. He was a pharmacist. He used to work for Universidad Nacional Mayor de San Marcos. He was a teacher, and he was a teacher all his life.
Okay. So tell me about those early married years, and how did you, when and where did you decide to leave?
Okay, so when we got married, my father bought us a house, small, and I lived in it until I left Lima to come here. And we had 3 children. The eldest one, Elena, now lives in Israel, in Ramat Bet Shemesh Aleph. I live here with my son, Shalom Banarer, because he invited me to live here with his wife and children. And the youngest one married a Chabad rabbi. She runs a Chabad house for the students of the University of Stony Brook.
Stony Brook?
Yeah.
Upstate New York? Yeah.
It's near East New York, the east side.
Right, right. You said you have 3, did I miss? Oh, one's here, and then, okay, got it. All right. So then, tell us a little bit more about the family, how it grew, and what kind of life did you lead in Lima, and then how did you make your decision? What happened for you to leave?
Well, we used to live in Lima. In Lima, there was not an open anti-Semitism, but there was a hidden one. So the best compliment my children could get is, "You don't resemble a Jew." That was the best compliment. Now, all my life, I grew up having Jewish friends and non-Jewish friends. It was the same for me. And it was not until 1989 when Uri Blumenfeld, the Chabad Sheliach, came to Lima that we really started to learn about being frum. Aside that, when my son was about to make bar mitzvah, there was no Ashkenazi rabbi at that time. So my husband said, "I'd rather have you study for your bar mitzvah with the Sephardic rabbi instead with a non-rabbi." So he made a Sephardic bar mitzvah. Until this day, we laugh about it.
Was it very, very different from an Ashkenazic one?
Well, I must praise Rabbi Ben-Amu. He was an excellent teacher. And he taught him as much as he could.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. And after that?
So after that, well, my children all went to university, and then I became a French teacher. And then unfortunately, my husband got sick. He had hepatic cirrhosis. So when he passed away, my son called me and invited me to live here in Dallas with him.
How did he get here? Why did he come here?
Because he studied medicine in Peru, and doctors are very, very underpaid in Peru. So he decided to come to the States for his residency, and he was matched to come here to Dallas, thanks to Dr. Ezra Burstein, a very close friend since they were little. So he came to Dallas, he married here, Miriam White, and when my husband passed away, they both invited me to live with them. So they told me, "Okay, you have a year to get everything ready." And knowing my son, when he said a year, it meant a year. So I made very sure that my daughter-in-law, who is adorable, agreed with that. I thought, it's very hard to have your mother-in-law with you 24 hours a day in a row. And this is irreversible. Think about it. Think it well. Well, she said, no, it's okay. So, thanks God, it worked very well.
What did you have to do to get ready to leave Peru?
Well, first of all, I had a stamp collection. So I started by trying to keep it in boxes and my pictures. Then when I tried to sell my belongings, I realized that it was impossible because nobody gives you anything. So I decided it was better for me to give them away to my friends, to my brother, my nephew. And I was very happy when I was able to ship some paintings and some things I loved. So the things I valued most, I was able to bring.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not get to sell the house and the car in a year, but I left the keys and everything to my brother, and he did everything for me.
Oh, good. That's
And
very
that
good.
was wonderful.
So is the rest of your family still there? Anybody else left?
My brother is still in Lima with his wife, and he has in Lima 2 children. And his daughter lives, one of his daughters lives in Israel,
Okay.
in Moshav Meravia.
Do you get to visit Israel
Yes,
to see your?
I am fortunate.
Yeah.
I was in Israel about 3 weeks ago. I came back. I had my 3rd great-grandson.
Oh, Mazel Tov.
So I was there for the bris.
Yeah.
I did not stay for the Pidyon Aben because it would have been too long. And then while I was in Israel before, 9 months before, because I had another great-grandson. So yes, I go to Israel
Whenever you can.
whenever I
Right.
can.
That's great. Wonderful. So tell a little bit about what your impressions were of Dallas when you first got here, and then tell about how it's changed since then.
Well, I am very lucky to live in a bubble because we still live in the same house 2 blocks away from Oratora, 2 blocks away from Shari, Tefillah, 2 blocks away from Young Israel. Okay? And what can I tell you? There is the French school, Dallas International School, close to us. I used to work there for a little bit. I used to go to do some, how do you call it, replacements at Torah Day School, but mainly I was at the house trying to help with my grandchildren,
Oh.
which was wonderful.
So who are they? How old are they, and what are their names?
Well, my eldest granddaughter here is Nehama Ita. She is 17. Then Esther, she's 15. Then Moshe, he's 14. And Vorarina is going to be bat mitzvah in a week.
Oh, very good. Wonderful. Was it a difficult transition for you? It must have been quite different from Lima to Dallas.
Well, the first thing is that when I came here, it was like either I made it then or it would never happen. So I just decided to jump into the swimming pool. And thanks God, it was a wonderful decision. And there are lots of things that are different. The main one is that in Peru, having maids is very, very inexpensive. So I used to have a live-in maid, the same one for almost 23 years, okay? And it paid me more having her and work than to do housework. So here, the first thing I had to learn is that you can't be a Jewish grandmother if you don't know how to cook. And I still don't cook. Although I want to be a Jewish grandmother, but
Yes.
you really need to cook.
Did you learn? You don't want to.
It's not that I don't know, but it's not my cup of tea.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fair enough. Can you think of anybody through the years that was important and really a good role model for you?
Oh, Mrs. Batia Epstein.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Because although Rabbi Feigenbaum is a wonderful person, I always felt better going to a woman instead. So I chose to go to Mrs. Epstein. She has been my Rebbetzin since I came. She's just wonderful. I love her. Now she's my granddaughter's teacher, and she just loves her. Who does not love Batia?
That's very good. Can you tell us something that you are very proud of that you have accomplished in your life?
Well, it was never in my plans to have 3 frum children. And all my 3 children became frum. I grew in a conservative home, but I wanted them to be Jewish for sure, but never Orthodox. And the 3 of them.
That's a good accomplishment. How has your family grown since you've been here?
Well, my eldest daughter has 6 children in Israel.
In Israel, okay.
My son has 4 here, and the youngest one has 10
Oh, in Stony Brook?
in Stony Brook,
Wow.
Long Island.
My goodness.
And I have 3 great-grandchildren in Israel.
Beautiful. That's quite a growth.
Yeah.
Have you seen any important changes in Dallas, the city itself, since you arrived here?
Since I live in a bubble, really not, but what I was surprised is to hear that someone snatched a friend's purse while buying at Costco. I have once the radio of my car got stolen, so it's becoming a little bit more sort of dangerous than 14 years ago. And some streets have been built, but as I said, I live in a bubble pretty much.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't covered?
Well, I would like to thank very, very much Mrs. Leah Ornish, because I think she was the one that had this idea. And I thank you very much for your time. And I hope this will be of some use.
Wonderful. I do have one more question, though. Do you miss Lima at all? What do you miss about it if you do?
I still have my brother there. You know, the reputation of Peruvian cuisine is the second best in the world after French cuisine. So vegetables and fruit in Peru taste different. People are Latin. There's sort of happiness and lightness, but the few times I have been back to Lima, I would have no wish to be back there.
Oh.
I go visit,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Well, we're happy this is now your home, so
Yeah.
thank you very, very much. It's been delightful.